Welcome everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. Just wanted to let you know that we are recording this session, so you'll be able to pass along to any colleagues or come back and visit it later on if there's something helpful in here for you, which hopefully there is. So hi everyone, my name's Lucy Booth. I'm one of the founders of Giraffe. I've got here with me Rob Asher today, who is also one of our founders and our CEO. Today we're going to be taking you through a few product updates that we will be releasing. I think they should be live now, so hopefully after this you can get in and have a play. We're going to cover two new design features that we have. One is called Design Library and the other one is called Design Compare. And the other one is a new and updated finance feature that we have, which essentially allows you to do some really customizable financial modeling for a project. As I said, you will be able to rewatch today's webinar. So we'll send around an email afterwards with the link for you. We can also share a link for any other resources that we have as well that can help you navigate the product. So I'm Lucy Booth, as I mentioned, one of the founders of Giraffe, and today Rob is going to be taking you through these new features. So he is actually a trained architect and computational designer. Rob, do you want to say hello? Give yourself an introduction.
Hey guys, I am Rob. I am one of the founders with Lucy of Giraffe. I'm keen to take you through these three new features.
Awesome. So I guess some high-level notes for the finance tool are that it essentially allows you to understand costs and income breakdowns. So you get to sort of nominate how those get broken down across a project. Allows you to do very detailed feasibility studies, custom calculations, derivatives from your project or site costs, and then you can also have import and export capabilities. So Rob, over to you to demo.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm pretty excited about about finance, and it sticks really with the Giraffe philosophy of not taking away creativity or good judgment from the user, but helping the user organize data. So you think of one way of thinking about Giraffe is just as a spreadsheet, right? Like an Excel spreadsheet, which does calculations, but of course, which is very, very helpful in organizing information and automating calculations, but in the wrong hands is very, very unhelpful. So Giraffe is sort of a spreadsheet optimized for cities. But we want to live in cities which are designed and created by people with great judgment and great creativity, not AI or anything like that. So in a way, what I'm going to show you is very simple, but it is extremely powerful. If, like me, you get trapped in organizing assumptions and spreadsheets and have felt the pain of chasing errors through large Excel models. So I'm going to create a new project. And I am going to build up a cost plan sort of from scratch and show you the thing that the new financial tab is doing, and sort of how simple it is, but how powerful it is. So the first thing that it does is you'll notice is that the old little financial calculator, which was sort of 3 or 4 lines of the total cost, is gone, and it's replaced by this heavier beast, which has got a summary, an expense, an income, and a setting page. And you'll notice that immediately we actually pre-fill with some site works, but there's not many expenses because there's not much geometry. So I'm going to create some geometry. So let's say we're going to build a mixed use development. We've acquired all of these houses, and we're going to build a huge podium shopping center, and we are going to build a big residential tower on top, bigger than that. And I'm going to turn these buildings off, and to the north of our new development, I'm just going to put a park. So I'm using the shortcuts here, R for rectangle and R for Rob. And you can see that as I'm doing that, so I'm drawing, we're starting to get construction costs, fit out costs, landscaping costs, and these bulk excavation and site works costs have updated. You can see how once the template's set up, how quickly you start getting some really nice exports and a cost plan in a format that anyone who's familiar with cost plans will understand. And the cool thing is how well Giraffe organizes. Like the trick here is how well Giraffe organizes all the assumptions and the calculations that go into this cost plan, and how simple it is to sort of find your way around that. So the way that we've done it is that on the usages, right, which represent typologies or products, depending on your language, we say usage. For better or for worse, we're kind of married to that term now. Per usage, you can add expenses and incomes, and you can create as many or as few as you'd like. So soft costs, which is a more used in America, it's a term that captures all your design, legal, sales fees, is something that ships on the default residential usage, so I'll delete that. And hard costs, which captures construction costs, is also on the default, and I'll edit it. And you'll notice that each expense has these following 5 or 6 inputs. It has a name, hard costs, so I'm going to change that to build cost. It has a category, which is construction, and you'll see there's a construction over there. You can have some details, and I can say via quote from Builder X, right? So you can write some notes. And now the really interesting thing is it has a base metric. And what Giraffe is a drawing tool where you create geometries, and those geometries, those shapes, have properties: volume, perimeter, area, length, number of them. And essentially what the financial calculator is doing is looking at those geometric properties and applying rates to them. It's that simple. In this instance, the build cost is based on area. And if you choose area, Giraffe lets you choose the gross area, as in the full envelope, the GFA, what we in Australia call the GFA, which is a factored down statutory area, or the net sellable area, which is again factored down, so it excludes things like corridors, which you can't sell. So you can build your build cost on any one of those metrics, as well as things like perimeter. You give it a rate, and then we have just a catch-all factor, which you can put in there. So I've added build cost. I'm going to update that. And let's say I'm going to add another expense, and let's call this facade lighting, because I'm going to do a really interesting facade lighting, and I'm going to put this in the same category, construction. And I'm going to say this is going to light up the facade. Now I'm going to wrap this around the perimeter of every floor. So I add perimeter, and I'll call it $100 or $1,000, and I won't factor it up at all, and I'll submit that. So now you see I've got my construction category with 2 expenses, one based on the area, one based on the perimeter. I can see their costs and I can see their factors. And if I save, we'll see those expenses get added to our expense report. So facade lighting has been added to the construction category. And if we hover on it, we can see the rate and the perimeter and the cost, which is pretty cool. And so you can imagine adding as many of these things as you want. You can create fees and charges at the usage level. And you can do it obviously for every usage. So you can see in retail, we've got a fit out expense based on the area, $2,000 a square meter. And that fit out is on, but we could change that to net sellable, update that and save that, and our retail fit out will change. And this is doing the 2 jobs, helping you organize where your assumptions live rather than sort of sprinkled throughout Excel, even if you're disciplined and have an Excel, like an assumptions page. And it's doing the calculations, so taking those geometries and those assumptions and producing these reports with the categorization, so that presentational side of it. So there's 2 other kinds of costs that you can add in Giraffe, which are extremely powerful. So the first is site works. So with the usages, these usages generally represent built form. So you can see these buildings and this landscape have some costs associated with them. But like you guys know, very frequently the costs are driven by site works. And so we've got a special calculator that allows you to assign rates and costs to site preparation. So this can be excavation of earth, preparation of the site, grading, demolition. And the way we do this is allow you to create a cost based on the site area, a volume, which is a site area plus a depth, generally representing an excavation depth, a perimeter. So say you wanted to choose this, add a cost of fencing, or just a lump sum. If you just want to add a dollar figure to this cost plan, you just chuck it in. So I've chosen site volume. And then what Giraffe allows you to do is create sub-metrics. So in this instance, for site area, the area component of the volume, which is area times depth. You can choose the total site area, which would be that everything. You can choose the building footprint, which is that bit. You can choose the Site X building, so everything that's not building. Site X everything, so that's everything that's not building or specifically landscaped. So you can choose any subcomponent of this site area. Then you assign a depth. So in this instance, I've said the building footprint, we're going to excavate down 0.6 meters, 600 millimeters. And then I've added another component, the Site X building, and there, because there's no foundation, we're only going to excavate 100 millimeters. So these two components set up a total volume, right? Which is a deep hole under where the building's going to be and a shallow hole where there's no going to be building. And then we have a factor here. So as we dig the soil up, it's going to bulk up and get bigger. And so we have a total volume that is doing a whole lot of really tedious measurement and organization for you. This is really cool. I mean, anyone who's done a takeoff on a plan will attest to that. And very flexible and powerful, you know. If you find a measurement that we're not automating, then let us know. So we've created a compound volume out of various components. The next thing we do is we break that volume down into costs. So we've got some GSW, gross soil waste or general solid waste, and we're putting it in a bulk excavation category. We're giving it a value of $90 per cubic meter. We're not going to factor it additionally, and we're saying it's 20% of the volume. Then we've got a second line item, which is hazardous waste, which in this instance we're saying is 15% of the volume, but has a value of 200 bucks per cubic meter. So I'm going to change that to 85%, so they sum up to 100. Or maybe I won't. I'll leave that at 80, and I'll add another line item, and I'll say this is asbestos, right? It's super hazardous, but again, it's in the bulk excavation category. Super hazardous. And the value here to dispose of it is 5,000 per cubic meters. And I'm going to say this is 5% of the total metric. Now, if I go too big, it used to give a warning, doesn't anymore. I'll update that. So be sure to see that these add up to 100. And if I update that, I get my asbestos category. It's super hazardous. It has this rate. And it's 241 cubic meters. So you can see I'm building up the component of the cost plan that is underground. The other type of cost that we can create is a derivative, what we call a derivative expense, which is a percentage. So we may have a fees. We want to put in our fees, which is something that we want to calculate based on the entire construction cost rather than at the usage. So we can add that percentage and call that fees. And I'll call that 10%, and I won't factor it. And if I add that in the summary page, we'll see that fees has been added, and it's targeting the 97 million of expenses, including the construction and the bulk excavation, and the rate is 10% without any factor. And we can continually add these kind of derivative expense, and we could add another expense of the total construction, or we could add a contingency based on fees, right? So this is it's gonna factor itself based on fees and expenses. So you can sort of stack up these expenses if you would like. So at the cost of some flexibility, we're getting a really quick way of building these cost plans. So you can see now this contingency is based on the 107 million, which is the expenses plus the fees. So we're assuming blowout on both of those. You may think this is a bit exhaustive, like doing this every single time, but you can import, once you've set this up in one project, you can import from any other project all your bulk excavation and fees. So once it's done forever. And also the speed and accuracy that you get from doing this sort of more than pays for itself in terms of a time investment. So that is the financial calculator. The income works extremely similarly to the expenses. It's just instead of expenses, they're incomes. And in the settings, we can do two important things: show cumulative total in the summary, so that 107 million, just add more line items. And critically, we can export both a simple and a detailed spreadsheet that shows what our cost plan is. And I'll open up the one of them here. So this is the simple one. You can see when it was exported, and then we have every single expense. So there's our hazardous, 241 cubic meters, and it's super hazardous. So we export the quantity, the units, the rates, and the total value, as well as all notes. So if you want to get it out in Excel in a nice, orderly fashion, that's very, very simple.
Awesome. Thanks, Rob. Just conscious that we've got 10 minutes and another 2 features to get through. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat as we're going, and we can definitely answer them while we're demoing or at the end. So hopefully you all understand that the point of this new finance tool is to really help you have a lot of control, but also very great flexibility over your projects, and really streamline the process for you by, being able to import assumptions across multiple projects or your whole portfolio. So the next 2 features that Rob's going to demo are sort of in our more design category, and they are our design library and design compare features. And these are, in a similar vein, really just to help you organize your catalog, access all of your past projects, and really understand the makeup of your projects, which I'd imagine could be really helpful when you may be an organization that does very similar projects, and you want to be comparing to past completed projects often.
Yep.
So Rob, if you're ready to jump into those.
I am, yeah.
Good.
And
cool.
And these 2 features are, whilst they are, I think, really, really powerful, they're also very conceptually simple. So the first one is the design library. So if I come down to these 3 dots and I click import drawing, I get to choose any project that I've ever created. And I have been busy and have created, I think I'm on like 700 or 800 projects. I can point this tool at any one of those projects. And what Giraffe does is it pulls that project into this menu, where you can select the geometries. So the buildings, in this project, I've got a park here with some standard sized tennis courts, or an apartment floor plan. You can select the geometries that you want to bring from that past project into the new project. So it's kind of like an incredible precedent management or benchmarking system, where if you have a plan drawn, or you drew a plan last week and you want to bring it across, you simply search the project and bring it in. So it's a very, very simple thing, but unbelievably powerful. Now you can look at the project as it is on the map. You can look at each individual item. You can look at it by layer, or you can look at it by group. And I normally use the groups in Giraffe, because in Giraffe, if you group geometries, you can give them a name. So I've grouped the blue representing floor plate and the 2 cores of Barangaroo, and I'm going to bring Barangaroo into this project. So to do that, I go groups, I click on the group I want to bring in, and I add it to the project. There's a quick warning saying that there's a commercial usage in what I'm bringing in, and there's a commercial usage in my existing project. Which one do I want to keep? I'm going to replace it and bring it in, and there we have a accurate scale and size Barangaroo, right? And when we do this,
Rob, it's probably just quickly worth mentioning here that when you bring in that commercial type or usage and you override the existing commercial usage, you're also bringing in all of the cost assumptions. Correct. That have come from that previous project. So that was a question that we've had. Does this design library bring in the costs from your typologies or usages? And the answer is yes.
Yes, yeah. So it brings in all the associated data. So very similarly to this tool here, where you can import financial assumptions and data for the financial calculator, including fees, expenses, and site costs. You can also import any usage, any geometry, so the shape of the building, plus all those assumptions. So that's all it is to it. It's like super simple, 3 clicks, and you get any building you've ever drawn. I think this is one of the most, I think back of being an architect and searching past projects, trying to find example floor plates or example precedents to communicate design intent or an option space really quickly. And this is ridiculously quick. So this is a feature that I really love. The next feature is basically the same, except it's called Design Compare. And it's an app, so you have to come to the apps and add it. And all it does is allows you to compare one project, which is the project we're in here, which is called demo, to any other project. So if I call in Giraffe templates and I choose the default layer, I get two pieces of information. The first, I get what the reference project name is and when I retrieved it. So if I go back into the Giraffe templates project and change it post November the 17th, this reference will always refer to the project as it was on November the 17th. So don't worry that you'll sort of be chasing your tail and updating things that you were using to refer to other things. Then I choose this default, this reference layer. So I can sort of, if I've got a multi-layered project, and what Design Compare does is say, compared to your reference design, how does this design perform? So in this case, we've got 3 commercial entities. The reference design has 2 landscapes. We've only got 1. And if I delete it, we go down to 0, right? So we can, just show what a reference design, which may represent a brief, it may represent a standard project or a template project if you're doing something like a school or a hospital, or, if an economist is given a brief, like we need 65,000, 650 dwellings and X amount of retail, etc., and you're working towards it, that can be captured as a reference project. And we can group the table by usage or any other key, and we can aggregate by count as well as gross floor area, right? So the landscape, in the reference project, I've got 2 parks, 2 landscaped areas. Here I've only got 1, but if I look at the area in the reference project, I've got 30,000 square meters of landscape, and it may be more appropriate for me in this project to have a single large park that hits the area number rather than, a number of parks. And we can do that by gross and net. So all this app does is takes 2 projects and puts them side to side by usage. So residential, commercial, etc., and allows you to compare in real time how your design is performing against that template. So really good in partnership with this design library, which allows you to bring data in. And I think that about sums it up.
Yeah, awesome. We haven't had any other questions come through, but if this has sort of, sparked something, please feel free to drop it on the chat. I guess a quick update is, as I said at the beginning, these features should be available for you now. If you're interested in using the Design Compare app, please get in touch with someone and we can talk about costs. So the import drawing, so design library feature is available to all users, as is the new financial calculator, but the Design Compare app is an additional cost. So we can talk you through that if you're interested. I think that's probably about it for us. Please do get in touch if you have any other questions. As someone just asked if finance is included, yes, finance is included, which I think I just mentioned. That is available to all users immediately. If you have an old project in Giraffe, it will show you the old finance app so that it's not replacing any of the previous work you've done, but it is quite easy to upgrade that project to the new app. So please get in touch with us if you have any issues sort of jumping between the 2 versions of the app. So Rob just showed us the old version, which some of you are hopefully quite familiar with. We can help you update that as well. So we're almost bang on time now. If you'd like a further demonstration of anything you've seen to you or your team, please do get in touch and we can do some more detailed, training or demo sessions with you. And that's it. Thanks so much for joining, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.